Last week I installed a brand new set of wheels and tires on this 2020 Tacoma TRD Pro, and we went with a bigger tire and a completely different wheel than what this truck came with from the factory. So basically today I wanted to talk about the 285 tire setup we have going on with this truck and how we got these tires to fit without any rubbing on the mud flaps, the cab, or the upper control arms, and just overall what it's like installing 285s on your 3rd gen Tacoma. The tires that just came off of this truck and are stock on the TRD Pros are 265/70 R16 Goodyear Wrangler all-season tires, and their diameter measured out to be about 29.6 inches. The idea for this truck was to upgrade the tire size so that off-road holes would be smaller, we would get better traction, but not upgrade them so big that this thing would be a dog to drive to the trails or to a point where we were in a position where we would need to get rid of our stock gears. So the new tires I installed to fit these needs were a 285/70 R17 BFGoodrich KO2, which in diameter are about 32.7 inches. So we basically increased the diameter by just over 3 inches and our width by just under an inch. 285 is a great size tire for these 3rd gen Tacomas for the reasons I just explained. Basically, you get a larger tire, but at the same time, they don't make your drivability so horrible that you need to upgrade your gears or your truck becomes a significant gas guzzler. A big question about 285s that we have to talk about, and honestly, so many people here on the channel have asked me about, is will they rub on the Tacoma? And the answer to that is a definite yes. With stock suspension. Getting these tires to fit without rubbing isn't always easy, and for this truck we had to do some suspension updates, so I'm going to talk about all of that in today's video. But I did want to mention it's not just about lifting your truck up enough to fit these bigger tires. You also have to consider things like back spacing and maybe casters sometimes. So in today's video I'll be sure to mention everything that we did in order to fit these 285s on this truck and get no rubbing, of course, on full turns. Again, these tires are BFGoodrich KO2s, and I love BFG and specifically the KO2s for Tacomas in general, and I actually have a whole video review about them that I posted a few weeks ago, and I'll have that link down below if you want to hear about the performance of these KO2 tires. But these specific 285 KO2s are low range C. They weigh 51 pounds each, and with this specific wheel on, which I'll talk about in a minute, altogether this combo is 78.6 pounds. We went with a section width of 285 millimeters because it's not too large of a width, and again, I know I just talked about width and having greater width is better for traction on the trails and everything. This is an upgrade from stock, but basically what we were trying to do was kind of find the balance between having a tire that was wide but still not wide enough to rub on any other components. And basically for the Tacoma, a 285 in this case was kind of perfect for that. I also wanted to make sure I talked about our wheels because they too play a part in not just the styling and looks of our setup, but also the fitment. So these are Method 703 wheels in the color titanium gloss, and if we take a closer look, this is not a matte color, it definitely is glossy. You can see it's got a little bit of a metallic shine to it, and I guess depending on the color of the light from outside or in your garage or whatever, these wheels can either look pretty light or pretty dark, but this color really looks great because the white is such a neutral color and the gloss is really nice for washing purposes. But anyways, for the Tacoma, you can get these 703s in 2 different sizes. You can also, I believe, get them in 3 different colors. The size we went with is a 17 by 8.5. Obviously with the Tacoma here, we have the 6 lug pattern, and these wheels have a 0 offset and 4.75 inches of back spacing. So wheel offset is something that a lot of people talk about because you want to have correct back spacing so that you can have space before your wheels and tires rub either on your fender liner or on your mud flap. Typically, the more negative that your offset is, you'll have less back spacing, so your tire is more likely to make contact with these areas. Now, people will ditch their mud flaps and they'll shave away at the plastic. However, if you have a wheel with a positive offset, which by the way, the wheels on my 2019 TRD Off-Road are a +4 offset, it is possible that you could run into issues, typically with wider tires, where you actually get rubbing on the upper control arms. The zero offset that these method wheels have for this specific application seems to give us an advantage of not rubbing on the cab mount and at the same time not rubbing on the upper control arm. Now, granted, again, 285s aren't too wide of a tire, but I think that the zero offset doesn't cause us a lot of issues with rubbing. A couple more features about these Method 703 wheels. They're made of aluminum, so they're pretty light and they weigh each about 27.6 pounds. Again, with this specific KO2 tire in total, they together weigh 78.6 pounds. Something cool about these wheels, and another reason I really like these wheels besides of their specs for this specific application, is that they come with Method's patented bead grip technology, which is something advantageous if you want to run a lower tire pressure when you're on the trails for an increased contact patch. And again, I know I already talked about the color and a little bit about appearance, and I know this is subjective. These are a great looking wheel in my opinion, and I think they're a good choice for hitting the trails as well, and they allow this 285 to fit well based on all of their specs on this TRD Pro. Alright, so I just talked about some of the specs of the Method wheels that we put on this truck to help the 285 tires not rub, but that was only a piece to the puzzle, and the other piece was a suspension lift. If you watched one of my videos a couple of months ago about this truck, I actually installed a Westcott Designs Fox TRD Pro front suspension lift, which basically involved taking out the lower shock collar and installing a new one to change the preload on the spring to give this truck in the front about 1.5 inches of lift. A big reason we went with that kit was to retain these factory TRD Pro Fox shocks, which are really awesome shocks by the way. But also it was so that we could do a suspension lift over a spacer lift, because that'll be better for this truck when it goes off-road. Also, that kit specifically advertised that it could fit up to 33-inch tires, so that was another driving factor, and it definitely helped us fit our 285s. You may also be wondering why we lifted just the front of this truck, basically to level it out with the rear of this truck instead of also just lifting the rear. And the basic answer to that is 285s already fit in the rear of the Tacoma. And unless you're that new Hummer electric vehicle, rear wheels don't have to turn. So there was already a lot of room for them in the rear, and really the only concern was the height in the front. The 1.5 inch that leveled out this truck allowed no rubbing on these mud flaps or any of the plastic in the front of the truck, which was really, really nice. And it was a big component in addition to the Method wheels on getting these 285s to fit without rubbing. So overall, fitting 285s on these 3rd gen Tacomas isn't too bad. You do have to do some modifications, and I know it's not always the most clear about how much to lift and what the best offset to get is, but hopefully this video today and basically this truck setup maybe helped you out if you're looking for a similar setup in your Tacoma. Now, as a disclaimer, ever since I put these new tires on this truck a week ago, this truck hasn't seen the dirt yet, so it's only been on road. And basically what I'm saying is it hasn't been subjected to its suspension articulating a lot more than normal. On road, going through big bumps and going through big driveways, so far there hasn't been any rubbing whatsoever for this Tacoma, but it's definitely possible that we might have a little bit rubbing when we hit the trails with this truck. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope this video helps out. And if you want more content from me, I do have an Instagram. It is at Chloe Kuo Taco. Thanks for all of your support. We've had so many new subscribers in the past couple of weeks, so thank you so much for that. But anyways, I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.